Hey everyone, it's Sarah, the elder millennial.
And this is Bill, the infant boomer. Welcome to Strengths on Fire, the podcast for strengths enthusiasts who want to have fun while leveling up.
Get ready for a mix of powerful insights, unexpected stories, and plenty of laughs along the way. Hey Bill, you want to light these strengths on fire?
Sarah, let's light it up!
Oh, there she is.
Oh.
Sarah Collins, jumping right in, looking great as always. Love it, Sarah.
Well, I did have to change my outfit right before this.
I'm
so
aware.
Thank you for noticing.
Yes, I'm aware.
The world is different when you have to see yourself on screen. I can walk around the world and feel fine. And then I sit and look at myself all day on Fridays and I'm like, wow, this color really washes me out. So switched out the shirt.
Completely true. And your tan from Mexico still looks absolutely fantastic.
With that spray tan that I got before the trip, I actually went to Mexico more tan than I came home.
So good. I would still say whatever it is you're glowing. You got a good glow on you.
Thank you.
So
It's the holiday bliss. Ring-a-ling-a-ling. If you're listening to this, we're recording before Christmas. So
we are.
We've got that holiday glow.
That is it.
I wish I could say I had some more exciting Christmas in the cup things happening here, but it's just tea.
It's a morning recording. We don't, both of our cups are probably on light duty today. I get
That's
that.
Right.
We've talked about doing a night one with some wine glasses.
Dark.
Yeah.
I know. Things could get crazy.
I think it's all in. That ties into a quick question I have for you. What is the most unusual or random talent you have that most people don't know about? Like I've known you for a while. I don't know what that talent might be. Any ideas?
Okay. So what I'm about to tell you is not really answering your question, but it's the first thing that popped into my mind. It is not a talent.
Oh, I can't wait.
But my maiden name, I'm probably going to regret telling everyone this.
I think I know where you're going with this. Oh.
My maiden name is Sarah Barge, and the way we spelled our last name was B-A-R-G. No E. It should have an E, yes, but it doesn't. Names, they make no sense. One time I discovered that if you write my name backwards, it spells grab her ass.
I lied. I had no idea where we were going with that. I knew the barge part, but now, I got to write it out. I can't. Wow.
It was funny because we figured this out when I was in junior high, and I said it in front of my parents. We all discovered it, and my dad was like, oh my gosh, we should put that on a shirt. And then he was like, no, we shouldn't. Never mind. I take it back. We're not putting that on a shirt.
That is so good. Oh, we're putting that on shirts for the podcast. The debate.
Grab her ass. If you know, you know.
The debate goes on, arsonist or hotshot. Right. And under it is going to be in quotes, grab her ass with one S missing, of course, because at the end. So, oh my God, I had wow. Now I knew I knew the old party barge nomenclature, the party barge name when you were in college. There was the party barge is coming. Let's have some fun.
It's the big woo.
So I have picked on that. So, yes. I had no idea.
Anyways, what about you, Bill? What's a talent that you have?
Oh, I didn't. I would tell you that one thing I would say a lot of people don't know about me. I have hand-eye coordination like ungodly. I just don't know why, and I have no reason to do it. I play cornhole, and it's I should be on the tour. It's my cornhole game is
so good.
I'm just. And I'm a little competitive about it sometimes, so I don't really give in easily. I did competitive shooting sports, sporting clays for years, and I was very low but nationally ranked at one point because I'd signed up and gone through.
Look at you!
So I would just tell you that I think most people probably think, IT guy, a little older, all that, and for some reason. I pitched softball for a lot of years, and I think that helped my cornhole game because that helped me put a weight right on a spot, and I've gotten used to that. So For me, and darts. I'm so good at darts. Again, it's putting a known weight onto a specific spot, and I don't know what that talent is called. Maybe it isn't hand-eye coordination. Maybe it's just feeling it and knowing it. But for some reason, that has just been something that I'm really good. Now, I'll play my son in cornhole, and I'll get smoked. Not by a ton, but his consistency is phenomenal.
Wow.
So yeah.
Very interesting. Now, here's the thing. You live in Reno, Nevada. You call it cornhole. I do know what you're talking about, but I know it as bags, which because I'm from Northeast Nebraska, I often say bigs. I have this little Dakota draw sometimes. I'm curious, Tara, our guest, I'm going to have you sneak in here. Which do you know it as?
I've heard it both ways. So I'm going to slice right down the middle. But if you would have asked me what my hidden talent is, Bill, I would have gone in something close to you. I am really good at minute to win it games. Like anything that is like that just requires, I suppose, coordination, but maybe it's just my competitiveness. Minute to win it games, I am all over. And I didn't want to interject this, but as a lawyer, Sarah, I would have responded if Bill hadn't chimed in and said objection non-responsive to his question about talents, because I'm not so sure that the backward spelling of your name rises to the level of a hidden talent. But hey, at least as it relates to cornhole or bags, I'm going to shoot right down the middle of the two of you and say, I've heard it both ways.
Tara, as my new lawyer, I need you to call Sarah out on being non-responsive. Your pitch to her being non-responsive, perfect. Right on point.
I really don't have a hidden talent, you guys. Everything that I can do, you've seen, okay? All the talents, they're just out there. There's nothing hidden or special about me. Just I can make funny things out of non-funny things, I guess. I don't know.
I would say, Tara, I don't know if you know this, Sarah sings.
Not well. Do not put me on the spot for that, okay?
I'm not going to ask you to sing.
Blow me up.
I am not going to ask you to sing, but a lot of our pre-shows, I'll come in and she is not humming a tune. She is singing a tune, and she's better than she thinks she is. I'm not. Don't do it today, sir. I'm not going to ask, but I would say as a hidden talent, your ability to belt out and know it and have it is really good.
And my guess is she is hardcore jamming out when she is singing as well.
She is. There's no mystery. I come in every now and then and my headphones are still hanging on the top of this. And while I'm sitting here, I can hear, or as I'm coming in, I'll hear it just going. And I'm like, Sarah's on.
I would say that I am actually a terrible singer. People are literally going to be like, you need a karaoke. And then they're going to say, wow, that was terrible. The thing that I can maybe do is I know a ton of songs and I can remember a lot of lyrics. My husband is always frustrated because I can't get to the grocery store without using my GPS. But you pull up a Spice Girls song from 1999 and I've got that on lockdown. It's got a nice little rap in there. We can go. So those little things have just earwormed. I'm always playing random songs for my kids from even 80s songs. I'm just like, oh yeah, this is a song you need to be introduced to. This is a good one. So I do like a little bit of music, but
I would say you're also extremely committed when you sing. Yeah. And that's a gift. By the way, we're doing karaoke in Denver for an event we're both going to. We've promised our coaching group to do that. So I think we have to introduce our Minute to Win It grand prize winner today.
I know. We are so lucky.
I know. Sarah, go.
We have Tara Paulson with us. Tara is the CEO, managing partner of Rembolt Ludtke, a law firm here in Lincoln, Nebraska. I've had the privilege to work with her and her entire firm. They have gone all in on Clifton Strengths. Everyone at the firm takes the assessment. They have internal people that help lead the mission for Clifton Strengths. And so we get to hear from Tara, and beyond all of her very impressive professional achievement, she is just a rock star of a person. She balances motherhood. She's involved in the community. She's just a delight to be around. So knowledgeable. Really, honestly, could be one of the most intimidating women, but isn't. Still friendly and personable. And I think that is a feat and an achievement. So, Tara, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. What an honor to be here, and what a wonderful introduction. I don't think I have ever been introduced quite like that. I've got a bright pink shirt on, so I'm not sure if you can see my cheeks getting a little bit rosy, but on the inside, that's what's happening.
Oh, well, I mean it all.
Would she be good introducing you heading into a court of law? You think that would be and Tara, as my new lawyer, because you're willing to call Sarah out on when she's, not totally being honest about her hidden skills. Do you think that hype woman right there coming into a court of law, how would that work? Would that be all right?
I'd probably say, let's go ahead and keep you outside the courtroom. I don't know.
Announce you to the media.
Yeah, I
Maybe
don't know
the
that
media.
the hype is necessary inside the courtroom. But if I need a little bit of, extra courage right before walking in, I want Sarah by my side.
There we go. There we go. In the headphones. The hype woman in the headphones.
Hopefully singing to me. Maybe even Spice Girls.
Maybe.
Perfect.
Tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want.
Wow.
Wow.
We're
duetting now.
This got into it. We went from Taylor to the Spice Girls. We're in. This is really good. So
this is good. This is good.
I love.
Will we not bring up the fact that I was once in trouble with the RIAA for illegally downloading music? Now that we have the lawyer here. Let's just bring all the skeletons out. Don't worry. We settled out of court. I gave them their $3,000.
I think I mentioned to somebody the other day that you were in trouble with the RIAA.
Yeah, I am a true pirate, a pirate of music.
Congratulations. Well, Tara, let's jump in here. Let's not talk about how Sarah and I have broken the law many, many, many times and how you probably helped us.
Yes.
Let's talk about you for a moment. So can you highlight your top 10 for us? Just give us what those top 10 are. And then on the backside of that, talk about how you became a lawyer, maybe what that path looked like and how those strengths came to maybe lead you to that.
Sure, happy to. So I actually have them written down because I've got my top 5 nailed down, but it was really important to me that I had all 10 in order for you. So my strengths in order go achiever, strategic, relator, focus, activator, self-assurance, competition, futuristic, command, followed by significance. So there is my top 10.
Wow.
I love that. That is, if you're listening, 50% influencing themes right there in the top 10.
That's rare.
It's rare, and I think it's pretty rare for lawyers in particular because at least in our work with Sarah, we did have all of our team members here do the strengths assessment. And of lawyers, some of the primary ones that you're going to get are much more of the strategic thinking, I suppose even some of the executing, but things like, learner and analytical and consistency, discipline, input, intellection. And those are pretty low on mine, actually, compared to high. So
yeah, it's funny you say that. I would tell you my local law firm, the law firm that I actually do use, the number one lawyer, my lawyer that I deal with, has high influencing as well. She's amazing in that. And I also quite often talk to bigger groups about, and I use the lawyer component because I do assess all of their lawyers as well. I would point out that very frequently we see lawyers that have high influencing that are great in court because they can influence the judge and they're moving in that way. But we also see high strategy lawyers that are amazing because they've outworked on the back end everybody that comes in. And we also see high relationship lawyers that are so good at what they do because they build the relationships with not only their clients but the people in the court and they're moving. So all of the domains, I would say,
can make you a really powerful lawyer. And I actually use that example in large groups when people are asking me, well, who should we be hiring for that? Who should we be hiring for the media job? Should it be an influencer? And the answer is no, not necessarily, right? Let's bring some other skills to that. So as far as in your law group, and I know you've assessed everyone, what is the breakdown? Do you know kind of is it a lot of influencing skills, or do you find that strategic is really common there?
There's a lot of strategic. One of the things that I found really fascinating when we did this throughout our organization is some of the team members that are not lawyers, but are in key support positions. We call those, the position titles are either paralegal or a legal executive assistant. Those are really the folks that are just making all of this stuff happen. And one of the breakdowns that I saw is there's a lot of relationship building in those, in the team members that have those positions. And again, just a little bit more of the strategic thinking in the lawyers, at least at our organization. And I don't know that that'd be 100% across the board, but just those were some of the things that I recall specifically when we looked at some of those breakdowns.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I think one of the things we talked about is there can be an assumption, or there was an assumption, that we would have more influencing themes. Because like what Bill is saying, oftentimes we get in our head as a society, as a people, that certain jobs do certain things, right? And so it's easy to think like, oh yeah, if you're a lawyer, you quote unquote should have these influencing themes because you're stressing that. And like Bill mentioned, you can be any job and have any mix of themes, right? Because we know, lawyers that do need to have that influencing theme and use that, but some that are more strategic and can use that. Just like, a nurse who has a ton of influencing themes and is really successful, and another nurse who maybe is way more executing themes and is really successful. So we see people flex these strengths in different ways for different careers. But I do think that it was interesting when we worked with your firm to see that the strategic thinking themes really dominated most of the attorneys on staff. But then you, who really I would love for you to share your story about becoming a lawyer and then about becoming, I think you call it CEO at your firm. A lot of firms call it the managing partner. How you came to be that, because I think your themes made that role really something that you could attain because you were able to kind of do both, because you were really equipped to be a great leader. So do you want to just talk about your story a little bit?
Sure, happy to. So actually went to college in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and played two sports there. So played volleyball and tennis. And I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do after college, but had a wonderful advisor. And he encouraged me to take some of his pre-law courses. And if I'm honest with you, I just loved him as an instructor, as a teacher. I thought he was amazing. So I took a number of his classes. They were all in that law area. He encouraged me to take the LSAT. I did. And I wound up in law school. So I'm not one of those lawyers who say I knew from day one or when I was really young that I wanted to be a lawyer. That really wasn't on my radar. No one in my family was a lawyer, but I just took some courses, really enjoyed them, really enjoyed that professor, and found myself in law school. So came back to Lincoln for law school, went to the College of Law here in Lincoln, had an opportunity to work for the firm that I'm at now. I actually got asked the question this week, how many careers or professions have you had? How many jobs have you had in your kind of professional career? And I hadn't really ever thought about it before, but my entire professional career has been here at this firm, Rembolt Ludtke. Mm-hmm. So clerked here as a law student, then had an opportunity to work here after law school. We call that position an associate. Worked as an associate for a couple of years, had an opportunity to become a partner. After I was a partner for a couple years, we had made the decision as a firm that we wanted to start thinking and acting a little bit more like a business. A lot of times law firms are run by a managing partner, and the running of a law firm is a little bit more passive or reactive, because that person who's serving in that role of managing partner is also practicing law. So sometimes then the focus on the business and growth of the business does take a back seat to the client needs that you have. And so I'm not saying that it's across the board this way, but generally law firms are not run as proactively as other private businesses. So we had some discussions at the partner level about what would it take for us to operate more like a business? How can we be more proactive, forward facing? How can maybe a better word even would be to say, how can we be more nimble? And take advantage of changes in the legal landscape? We had an outside group come in and facilitate some discussion around that. And we identified some of the key traits that we would need for a leadership group to be able to carry us in a more proactive way. So we identified those strengths, kind of some lanes of responsibilities. One of those lanes is a CEO or Chief Executive Officer lane. And as a part of that facilitation, partners had interviews, each had interviews with this external group. And it still is humbling to think about the aftermath of that, where I was asked to serve as the CEO. And it still actually kind of gives me goosebumps, just because it wasn't something that I had ever anticipated or really certainly never sought after as a part of my career, never anticipated as a part of my career. But my partners actually asked me to serve in this capacity as CEO. So it's a really interesting dynamic, because as CEO, I'm not only one of the partners, I'm also kind of CEO, and I'm going to use the term over the partners, even though I'm not sure that's accurate in this particular structure dynamic. But had that opportunity, and that ask of me was 3 years ago.
So, you'll hear about it from your partners when they listen to this podcast. They're gonna.
I feel like I was really soft about it, right?
You were.
I don't think it was. I don't think it was offensive.
Totally
I am both one of them, and then also help steer the vision and the operations as well.
Totally.
Also, you're all assuming they're going to get past the grab her ass part. They're all going to shut the podcast off at that point. So who's ever left, hello, welcome to the show. But what I love about this is you do have those influencing themes: that activator, self-assurance, competition, command, and significance. And self-assurance, command, and significance are the least likely to show up in people's top. And here you have all three of them. And I always say they beg for leadership, even if the person with them isn't looking for that. Right? Because sometimes you're just working, you're doing your best, you're out there being yourself. And it's like in this story, what I think is so cool is, to me, those strengths were out there saying like, yes, I can. And maybe you didn't see it. You weren't the one saying like, yes, pick me, choose me. But the people around you said, you know what? That's the one. And I think that's because even before maybe you knew the words of Clifton's strengths, you were living into those themes that are really great leadership traits, because they kind of are out there, out front, saying like, yeah, let's do this, right? And so I just think it's really cool how you came about to be the CEO, and it really is a supportive environment from all the attorneys and partners around you.
Well, you know, it almost even took, it's my best friend from high school. It actually took her almost sticking a mirror in front of my face, because I had said, gosh, this is uncomfortable for me. I don't know that I vision myself up in front and leading. I do like to be a little bit more understated and behind the scenes. And, I do have a hard time talking about myself. So now all of a sudden I find myself in this other role, and she looked at me and she just started laughing so hard. And she goes, Tara, you have been the team captain of every team you've ever been a part of. When we were in school, people wanted to be in your group when it was group projects, because they knew that you would take the lead and you got everyone involved in a way that made them feel like their contributions were meaningful. She's like, what are you talking about? That this is a surprise to you. And, I was speechless because that was a major dose of reality for me that perhaps maybe like you just said, Sarah, I don't know that I go around shouting at the top of the rooftops, here I am as the leader and follow me. But it has been a really big component of my life. And so I suppose then in that moment when I was asked to serve, I didn't have that perspective, but now I do in a way that helps me warm up to the fact that I am in this position and I get this opportunity to lead this wonderful group of people.
Yeah. And I just have to speculate. I think your mix of strengths is so interesting because you have those 5 influencing, but you don't have woo and communication in your top 10. And I feel like a lot of times those 2 strengths we see with a mix of those other 2. And so it can be a little bit like, look at me, everyone. I have things to say and things to do. You come in with relator. You come in with achiever and focus. So it's such a dynamic mix of strengths. When you look at your other 5, right? Futuristic, focus, relator, strategic, achiever. So steady, such hard work there, such just focus. And that relator being such a more intimate relationship building theme. But then you have that really solid base, that competitive drive, that push, that confidence to say, yes, this is the way and let's go now. And I just think what a cool dynamic to see in somebody.
I think one of my favorite things that you had us do, Sarah, was looking at that Clifton Strengths Top 34 report and that dynamic of the first 5 where they actually kind of develop what your first 5 mean in unison with each other. Because I remember hearing you talk about achiever, and that's my number 1. And it's not an uncommon number 1. And what you told me, I think, and just correct me now if I'm remembering wrong, but what you told me is that I like to stay busy and I've got a lot of stamina. That's completely true. But then I remember you dissecting that with me about how those work with my other themes. And some of the biggest components of it is I'm a really active listener. I actively listen, which I'm not sure always comes out in people that have achiever and maybe don't have that relator theme as well. I'm constantly looking for ways to impart knowledge by telling stories or by taking things that don't seem like they're similar, but putting them together and showing you how these can relate to each other, which... Again, it was you that kind of opened my eyes, Sarah, to how those top 5 of mine work together in a way that perhaps does make me uniquely qualified to serve in this particular position here at this firm.
Well, and listening to you say it, you just mentioned, I'm not an active listener per se, or I don't always listen that way, but you're recalling a discussion you had at least a year ago about coaching and accurately defining the theme, talking about how you're using it, listening to that. Again, how we see our strengths, the lens we look at them through is always a little different than how other people see it. Sarah, I think you hit on that so well about they picked a leader in you, right? So I know, again, my lawyer locally, she, like you, has activator command competition in her top. She is also the managing partner of the local group. So again, I'm making that comparison of, I think when other people are seeing that those themes play out in you and hey, I really, as an influencing person, I really value what you bring not only to us, but maybe if there's something from the outside that needs to be addressed, your achiever is there, but also you can influence the outside forces and help and be the rock for us with the other 50% of your themes, as Sarah pointed out. Again, you're working with a fantastic coach, so I don't ever wonder or doubt that you've been led very accurately on how this works. So I just want to give you full kudos on becoming aware of what those themes mean for you and how they work together. That can be a difficult spot from a coaching point of view. Is there a theme outside of influencing, one of those others in the 50%, that you think really shines on those other influencing themes? One that you think you pivot into a lot?
I think it'd probably be strategic, because when I think about pathways forward in terms of whatever the decision may be, I can come up with 5 different ways to get there. And yes, there might be an easier route to get there, but if there's a route that's maybe going to take a little bit longer, but I can get more people on board, I can still see what the end goal is. And so, I think that strategic theme really plays in pretty heavily with those influencing themes, because I can think about multiple ways to attack a problem or to push us forward. And I'm thinking about, okay, how can I influence folks along the way? And sometimes what's the path of least resistance, even though it might not be my preferred choice, if it's one that I can get more people on board with, let's go ahead and do that one instead.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
What I'm interested in, because you're so strategic, I had the opportunity to come and meet with your practice group before we did the full firm. Before you were CEO, I met with just your small practice group to do Clifton Strengths. It was from that experience that you said, hey, I'm going to be launching into the CEO role and I want to roll this out to the whole firm. What was it about Clifton Strengths that made you want to dedicate so much time and resources to it for the firm as you stepped into the leadership role?
Yeah, probably 2 components when I think back on that, Sarah. 2 components. One, we were still kind of coming out of the pandemic. It was I think it was around end of 2021, Sarah, that you had come in and done that. I was going to step into this new role in 2022. So we were still kind of coming out of the pandemic. We had grown a lot, actually. In spite of the pandemic, our team had grown. We had gained some new team members. And so one thing that was important to me was showing everyone here, what is it like to be a member of Rembolt Ludtke? What is the culture? Some of those team members didn't know what the firm looked like, felt like, could be prior to the pandemic. And so wanting to establish some common language or some norms that all of us could utilize and that were all new for all of us, not just one group, that was important to me. 2, the second thing that was really important is, in some ways, our organization is a fairly flat organization, meaning we're not so big as to be able to have mid-level managers and senior level managers or, director positions where someone can really promote up within the organization. It's a little bit flatter than that. There is some room for advancement, but not like you see at big organizations. And we've got some incredible people here. So what I saw as a component of the work that you did with that small practice group of mine, Sarah, is team members saying, gosh, I can continue to invest in me and I can learn more about me. And I may not need that promotion to, that title of a promotion, because I'm still growing. And what really reigned true in that session, at least that what I observed, was the feeling of being able to continually grow almost displaced a need for promotions up a ladder, because I can't give promotions up a ladder really, but I can give opportunities for continued growth. And what I saw is that's really what team members here were looking for. And so I wanted to use those 2 components and roll it out to our firm at large to get an even greater benefit for everyone.
Absolutely. And I have seen not only with your law firm, but I've even started working with some healthcare companies, and it's the same reason, right? In some of these organizations, there is limited promotion opportunities just because of the nature of the business and how things work. And so how can we still pour into our people? How can we show them, hey, here's what you're good at. We care about you. We care about your professional development. We care about your growth. And this is going to help us work better as a team. Let's like all get level set on the same type of language. Let's really think about how we get the best of ourselves and each other. So I just think that it was so cool to have you see all of that and make that investment. And I have to think that it really, as you stepped into that CEO role, you came in really quick with this plan. And I have to think that that also showed people like, wow, this new leader is coming in people first. She's thinking about us. She's thinking about our growth and development. Like on day one, she walked in with a plan.
I would back that up. What I was thinking when I was listening to, hey, one of the things that helped was how do we indoctrinate the new people coming in to know our culture? How do we handle that? The other people seeing you and saying, man, I want to pick you to kind of lead because you understand where we come from. And when I keep hearing that, it's number 10 for you, but I want to touch on it for a second because it's really important. It's number 1 for me. So I call it one of the best themes, but it's individualization, and it is that ability to really understand and know the unique traits of people and being able to put them into the right spots. And in your case, it seems to me it is supercharging your influencing themes because you're allowing it to also look at and dictate and experience the people where they're at, because that makes that influencing very personable for them. Have you ever experienced something in that individualization? Have you worked in that or thought about the individualization side of it in that way?
Gosh, Bill, I don't know that I have.
Well, it's technically at number 11 for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So see, it
Sorry,
basically
I was looking
doesn't
at it
exist. It basically doesn't
Yeah, it's
exist
gone
for me.
now.
I'm just kidding. I think in terms of my thought process on individualization, I think where I see it come out more for me is probably that relator. And I know that those are two different things, but when I think about personal connections with team members here and what they need and how can they be successful, and maybe more importantly, how can we ensure that their contributions are valuable and that they feel that their contributions are valuable. I do a lot of that in one-on-one dialogue, and so I don't know how that necessarily relates to individualization, but that feels like how I would approach it, given that relator theme of mine.
Yeah, it seems to me you know exactly how it relates to it. And that's a exact perfect component of that is understanding and being able to dive in uniquely with the people that you deal with and being able to put them in the right spots. And then also being tasked with, I need to show you the culture because I really can very quickly bond to what you're asking and what you bring to our environment. And I can aim that in a way that is really powerful for the other people here in this environment. And that comes from that relator building it and that individualization having the superpower to be able to see it. So I use it as a coaching super tool. I hear it in your voice as a lawyer / influencing super tool.
Yeah. I also hear a lot of that futuristic. You have that futuristic sets the present based on what could be, what will be. They're looking out. And I think so much of your strategy, that's strategic in there, of what does the firm look like? What is the culture? How are we going to grow? What is my leadership tenure going to be representative of? It's so future based. You're thinking, what can we do now for then? And I just think in the way you talk about the people, the way you want to invest in the people, and I know from what you've done with the firm since you've been CEO, you're looking ahead, you're driving forward, you're going to that place. Sometimes futuristic can be rooted in truth, and sometimes it can be daydreamy, right? Of like big things. How do you feel about your futuristic? Or do you feel like it's very practical, or do you feel like it can get, sort of that mystic, like big dreams?
I don't know. I don't see it as big dreams. I see it as I know the goal or the vision that I have, and maybe it's some of my other strengths, but then I'm focused on what are the action-based activities that we can do day to day, week to week, month to month, so that we can get to that result. Because you never get to the result if you're not engaging in those action steps to get there. So I do think probably my futuristic is a little bit more grounded in reality as opposed to daydreaming. At least I think that that's how my team members would say I would show up, because again, I'm coming up with what are all of the different, again, activity-based, task-based activities that we can do to get us there. That's at least how I would think about it, how it shows up for me.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. I mean, you've got that achiever, strategic focus, so I think it makes sense that the futuristic is grounded in reality. But it's always fun to explore that. I also think two themes that you have that I actually am envious of is you have activator, which is the influencing theme of let's go, let's get things done. I have that. Love it. But you have focus, which is the executing theme that can really zone in and finish. And I think what a power duo to be an activator and a focus. So not only can you start all this stuff, but you can end it, which is not, I don't have focus.
But
so I'm a good starter, but not always a good finisher.
I feel like sometimes it's like an accidental diminisher, though, because I feel like there are times where I am poised to move. Like one of my team members said, you're a great communicator, but if you ask me, the first words that come to mind if you were in battle with me, it'd be that you move and then you shoot and then you communicate. And so sometimes I feel like it's a little bit of an accidental diminisher, because I can go hard and I can go fast. And because of that inclination I have to move and be proactive and take a step, and that focus sometimes means that I can exhaust team members in a way that I don't want. Or two, I might leave them behind unintentionally, but I'm going so fast. And if they're not able to keep that pace, I'm still going ahead. I'm usually not going to wait for them to catch up. I'll just keep going. Sometimes that means that I take over more and more because I know where we want to get, and I want to get there as quick as we can. So that's where I'd say you could be envious, but I think that there's a little bit of a dynamic there that is a little bit of an accidental diminisher if you're not aware of how it can show up.
Well, now I just feel proud because your strengths awareness in that whole thing was fabulous.
So as the new coach, Tara, new certified coach, congratulations. Very well done. Right? You're now in.
Goodness.
I absolutely adore and appreciate your ability to break that down and think about how that comes in. It is kind of a hallmark of high relator people. And Sarah and I have that activator. I do. Absolutely. It's number 3 on my end. And so I tend to jump right in with both feet, and I want to go like you, and I want to move, and I want to push. But sometimes the people in the room are like, well, we need to, especially the high strategic people, they want to talk about it. They want to know where we're going to get there. How are we going to pull it together? What are the resources? How can we pull that together? So I hear that in your voice, and I hear how you do that. I'm curious, how do you balance that? Another hallmark for relator people frequently, not necessarily in this case, I haven't coached with you, but another hallmark of relator people is that they tend to have very deep relationships. But you don't want to burn a bridge with a relator, because then you're dead to me, right? I don't want to, I can't, it's hard to come back from that. So how do you balance that? Would you say that's fair from a relator point of view in the way that you see your strengths? Is it a tough burn the bridge component, or are you more forgiving than that? And how does that play out for the other lawyers in your firm, or maybe even in your personal life?
Well, I think just being self-aware of it has helped me not get into too much trouble. Doesn't suggest I don't get into trouble sometimes, but I think just
we're going there. We're going to go there in a minute. So yeah.
Being aware of those personal relationships and how important they are to me, and knowing my colleagues to know, okay, this person I think would really like to be plugged in on something like this. How can I involve them from the get-go? Or what input can I seek from them that could help. Maybe they even help shape the direction because of their input. So I think self-awareness about it is key for me. And that's how my relator comes in is, gosh, how would this feel if I was this team member and I left them in the dust on this particular project? How can I make sure I don't do that? So some of it is just some reflection to say, gosh, how can I take a breath? What would that look like if I wait until tomorrow instead of diving in today? Have I really lost anything? Usually the answer is no. So I think that's how my relator plays into it, is just thinking about the different team members in here and how can I also help them shine in these moments too.
Yeah. So and what I love about this is your 34th theme is empathy. And sometimes people, right? Like everyone gets a little self-conscious about their 34th theme. And I hear a lot of people when they've got the lower empathy, they get like, okay, what does this mean? But I always say we can get the same outcome in the world from different strengths. And the way you describe your relator, using your other strengths to influence it, it almost comes out as empathy, right? So yes, you're not the same like chest cavity cracked open, absorbing the thoughts and feelings of those around you as those high empathy people are. But you're strategically relating to people, you're putting yourself in their shoes, you're thinking about how do we get this done? And so you still can come to your people with a level of empathy. It's just coming through like a concoction of other strengths. And I think that's so powerful because when people say, well, how do we manage these things at the bottom of the list? It's think about what is the outcome you want in the world. Then look at your 10 or your 12, 13 and think, how can I create a reality where these come together to create that same outcome or a similar outcome in the world?
Yeah, I
and
totally agree.
You're doing it.
Yeah, it's all about, what's it like to be on the other side of the desk than me? And I want that to feel positive, even if I'm having to deliver difficult information or some tough love sometimes. How does that person feel when they're not only when they're across the room from me, but how do they feel when they leave? That's just really important to me, and I think that's how my empathy does come out is through those other themes.
Yeah, totally, completely. Well, you touched on it, and I promised you it was about to come up. So and understanding other people and not running them over has come up. The ability to understand how maybe some of these get me in trouble. Well, let's talk about our dumpster fire segment for a second. Let's discuss, when do you think a combination of, or one of maybe particularly of your themes gets you into a little bit of that trouble? When does that dumpster fire happen?
Gosh, probably every week, Bill. It's probably some kind of dumpster fire moment.
Sarah's got you coached so well.
I mean, it comes out, but I think one of the times where it just really hit me in the face is I was leading a meeting of our partners, and we were discussing a potential opportunity, and I was like shaking in my boots about this opportunity and how would we do it, and I was really unsure about it, and was it the right call? I mean, I was having all of these internal thoughts, and we left the meeting, and one of my partners, who I have so much respect for, asked for a private meeting with me after the meeting, and she said to me, "Hey, I felt like you had already made your decision on this, and it really impacts me. And help me understand why you were so confident." And I started laughing. And I didn't mean to be critical, but I said, what do you mean confident? Like that was probably a moment where I walked in the most unsteady, and I left probably unsteadier. But I think the themes that I have of command and self-assurance, I think I portray sometimes more confidence than I really have. So that was absolutely a dumpster fire moment. And now in those moments, I almost over-explain myself like, hey, I really don't know about the pathway here. What I'm looking for is some input or some suggestions. I want to be very clear. No decision has been made. And sometimes I probably now overkill it. But because of that huge dumpster fire moment where apparently my self-awareness was negative because what I was feeling and then what it felt like to be in that room with me were two very different things. And so that'd be kind of one of my major dumpster fire moments. But again, we can talk about one each week if you want to, Bill.
Oh, I don't need to talk about one each week, but I'm going to give you kudos in another way too. It is quite often difficult for peers, coworkers, friends to give honest feedback back to high influential people. It can be difficult because you bring so much to the table. How you must be keeping that in check, using it maturely, or being so willing to accept, hey, I might not know with high self-assurance and competition and command the absolute right way. I'm second guessing it, but I can at least purport it correctly and move through it, and then be willing to take that feedback to adjust where we're going to go. That is an incredibly mature usage of influencing themes that I know I work with many of my high influencers to get to, because for many of them, here's the direction, done. This is what we're doing, right or wrong. If it goes down in flames, but that's what we're going to do. And the ability to have a peer that'll be able to say that it's, from a respect point of view is really powerful. And it says a lot about the peer, but it also says a lot about you. And I don't want to let that get away.
Yeah.
Well, let's make it more about the peer. That always makes me a whole heck of a lot more comfortable than about me.
But I just want to mimic what Bill said. He's right. The fact that you have created a culture where people can come to you and say, hey, what was that? And the fact that you were able to receive that and then inform future ways that you're acting and talking based on it, because that is what you're talking about is some of the most common things that I work on with people with high command, high self-assurance, is a lot of times they are thinking, well, yeah, this could be the way, but they don't realize that they say it of like, this is the way. And it does not open the door. In fact, it closes the door to those around them to say, but what about this idea? And so sometimes they'll say, well, I want other people's ideas, or I want their feedback, or I didn't know what to do, but no one will say anything because they have created an environment that sort of shut that down. And so it's like, okay, well, we have to work on phrasing. Here is an idea. What are other ideas? And so the way that you are forming it, I mean, that's what we would want to see with those influencing themes, and to know you've created a culture where people can say, okay, well, what about this? And I just think that shows just such great strength awareness that you have.
Yeah. And I also would jump in. I keep hearing it from you because you brought up earlier, I need to know what that person is thinking when I'm blowing them out of the water. I need to step back and think about what is that person feeling when I do that. And again, that is taking those very few relationship, understanding how relator, individualization, maybe even strategy come into play for that, and tamping down that high self-assurance, high command. Maybe if you're not so sure, being able to relate to that and being able to relate it to the people around you. So again, it's a superpower. I've worked with people that don't possess it. So I love the fact that you can come on this show and talk about how successful it is when it works and how to do it correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, now I have our fun question for you. Are you ready?
We're gonna get get silly now. We're gonna
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Okay. You wake up one morning to find you've switched bodies with your favorite superhero. How do your strengths help you save the day?
Okay, so first thing I did to prepare for this question is I wanted to come up with my superhero name. And
Ooh,
so
I love it.
I Googled, superhero names, and they had, one of those superhero generators where it's like you take your first initial of your first name and then the first initial of your last name, and then that combo is your name. So my superhero name is the Dynamic Dazzler, which I kind of liked. Short DD.
How could you not like that? That's
great.
It's,
Wonderful.
Dynamic Dazzler, DD. The traits that you will see from the Dynamic Dazzler show up to save the day is an exceptional amount of courage. So that would be trait number one. And I think that the strength themes that I have that lend itself to that exceptional courage are some of them that we talked about, that self-assurance, command, achiever. Other things that I think that this superhero DD would possess is an unwavering resilience or stamina. And that's where you're going to see my achiever come in. This particular superhero is also going to be real strategic and have the ability to inspire others around them. And so that's where I think you'd see some of those influencing things or activator come into play as well. So superhero name, Dynamic Dazzler or DD?
Well, I think it's spot on. And I have to say, this is a little bit of a side note, but I just couldn't get away from this episode without bringing it up. Maybe a month ago, you spoke to the local Chamber of Commerce has a group called Rise, and the Rembolt Ludtke hosted us, and you spoke to the group, and it was maybe 10 minutes. It was short, but you brought up your strengths and you talked about not only the work you do at the firm and in the community, but with your family because you're a mother. And I just think you told such incredible stories you packed so much into that. And I think it was so inspiring. I mean, I have the privilege of knowing you already, and I was so impressed. And I heard from so many women in that room, it was a packed house, how cool it was, the way you know yourself and the way you're able to sort of, what did you call it? Wasn't balance. What are we doing with the?
We've got rhythm.
The rhythm.
Sarah. We're not balancing, but we've got some rhythm.
It was honestly phenomenal. And I just think we can't get out of here without recognizing you wear a lot of hats. You not only have a super important job, but you're an active and involved mother. You are involved in the community, and you're just like a cool, fun person. And I think that is hard for people. That is. And I'm so happy that you're out there doing it and talking about it, because we need to hear examples of what does the rhythm look like. And so I just think the Dynamic Dazzler, she is inspiring all of us in every different facet. So
yes.
I sometimes tell myself, if I wasn't a lawyer, I'd like to be an interior designer. And I have no interest in designing either of your homes unless you like my style, because I'm really good at that. And so, when I saw Dazzler, I thought, I could do something with that.
We should have
another life.
We should have asked her. We should have asked her, how would you design the interior of my home? That should have been her special question.
I tell you exactly how my home is designed, Bill. I'm not interested in your in your style, but I can do my style pretty good.
I hear
Which
it.
would mean I'd be a terrible interior designer.
The superhero thing is making me think of the multiverse, because Marvel has put us in this. So in one of the multiverse versions of your life, you were probably a designer.
You could be right.
Totally true. And Sarah and I are trying to figure out, how do we get rhythm on this podcast? You brought up rhythm. So I like that, I would say Sarah and I have a great rhythm, honestly.
Yeah,
I don't want to back that down. So, but I do
did
have
you say you both have activator?
We do. Yeah.
Right? So that's where your rhythm comes out. Balance is static. So
because we're both super excited to have our guests and want to jump in and talk. And as our now official legal representation for the podcast, I think I have to ask you
like,
this.
No, I'm not. I'm not signing my name to this.
You haven't paid me a thing. I am nothing to you. As our non-official legal representation, is there a problem using the term arsonist for our listeners? I mean, is there anything that,
are you trying to get free legal advice right now?
I just want to make sure we're not in trouble, because some of us love arsonists, some of us love hotshots, So we're trying to. What do you think of the arsonist? Is arsonist?
I like arsonist. I mean, I was thinking for you like other things that you could, and I didn't like them. I thought like sparkler. That's too small. Like when I think of the two of you, it's got to be big and grand and maybe a little mischievous, like the arsonist.
I am such an arsonist. Oh, yeah.
So the lawyer says it's okay. I think we're running. We're running with arsonists. We can't put it back in the bag.
I think you do a disclaimer at the end of this for you, and I'll just say I am not providing any legal advice in connection with this particular podcast.
There we go. And we'll also put a disclaimer to say we do not endorse setting things on fire unless it's figuratively.
Right.
Figuratively, go start all the fires you want.
Unless it
literally do not start fires.
Unless it is your strengths-based people around you. Start that fire. But other than that, do not.
If you put it in quotes, arsonist, maybe that saves you. Arsonist.
Our legal team speaking out. I'm sorry, our non-legal team speaking out.
Unofficial advice.
Yeah, and it's perfect advice too. So Tara, thank you for the legal advice. Thank you for prompting us to get some rhythm. We're going to definitely happen to that. Thank you for having the state capitol behind you in your video.
That is all props to my colleague who set this up just for us.
I think Sarah and I can fully qualify. We have not had another guest that had prepped their background to the point of having the state capitol or something that grand behind
your setup really is just 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, before we go, Tara, if people want to find you, if they want to find the firm, where can we find Rembolt? Where can we find Tara?
Well, Rembolt's got all sorts of social media outlets. So we've got a website, remboltlawfirm.com. We've got a Facebook. We've got a LinkedIn account. We've got a Instagram account. I don't think we have Twitter, but we do have all of those channels, so you can find our law firm there. I'm a little bit on the reverse side of all things social media. So I do have a LinkedIn account, but I'm not particularly active. This is probably me trying to stay a little bit more hidden. So harder to find me, but I would love for you to find our firm and all of the wonderful things that our firm is doing for clients, but for our community as well.
Perfect.
That's awesome.
And we will have those links, obviously, in the show notes. We'll also have them connected to your people profile on our website as well. So, Tara, thank you so much for coming in and giving us some free legal advice today. We appreciate that. But also
objection, non-responsive.
Right, Sarah, non-responsive again, and being so incredibly strengths aware, which you absolutely purport. You radiate how that works for you. You keep your strengths in a rhythm. Hey-oh, see what I did there? See that?
You did it.
You keep those strengths going for you and for your team, and that's so refreshing and wonderful to hear. So thank you for those shares today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was a joy.
It is a joy. And are you going to call yourself an arsonist or a hotshot? Which one is it?
I'm going with the dynamic dazzler. I'm leaning into my superhero.
I love it.
Is the dynamic dazzler an arsonist or a hotshot for the? Okay,
the dynamic dazzler's absolutely an arsonist.
Perfect. All right, I love it. So legal's in. The arsonist is there. We will talk to our arsonists and our hotshots on the next episode. So thank you very much, Tara. And thank you all for listening. We will talk soon. Thank you for joining us on Strengths on Fire. If today's conversation sparked something in you, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. We're here bringing you fresh insights to fuel your growth and ignite your potential. Remember, your strengths are powerful, so let's keep the fire burning.
And if you're looking to transform your organization through strengths-based strategies and coaching, reach out to Sarah Collins, founder of Collins Collective, or Bill Dipple, founder of Bill Dipple Strengths Coaching. Connect with Sarah at wearecollinsco.com, follow her on Instagram at SarahCoachCollins, or email her at sarah@wearecollinsco.com, SARAH. You can reach Bill at BillDipple.com, Bill, DIPPEL.com, or on Instagram at BillDippleCoach, or email him at bill@BillDipple.com.
Please note the opinions, views, and interpretations of Clifton Strengths expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and the guests. They have not been approved, sanctioned, or endorsed by Gallup in any way.
Until next time, keep your strengths on fire and let's light up what's possible together. Bye, Bill.
Bye, Sarah.